Okay, let's see how this acorn squash does. Last time I tried this recipe, my acorn squash went rotten on me. I stored it in a paper bag, and this feels like it's still good. It's been about a week since I bought it. Yep, that's the way you store acorn squash when you buy it in the grocery store. You store it in a paper bag at room temperature in a dark place, and it'll last a long time. So what I'm going to do right now, I've made this recipe before, but so far I have not been pleased with this recipe. Every version I've tried has stunk. And what I'm going to do is it's because I'm making a low FODMAP. I'm finding for this recipe to be a success, I pretty much have to follow the recipe exactly. Okay? I'll have a link to this recipe underneath this video. I haven't been posting a lot at my cooking channel because I've been making the same stuff that I've already made videos for. But this one, I've made this before, but it wasn't very good. And so far I haven't been happy with anything that I've done. I have a gut feeling, this is my 4th try on this, I have a gut feeling that this is going to be a success. The reason it hasn't been any good is not because the recipe's bad, but because I've modified it to make it low FODMAP, because I have a problem with garlic, onions, and I'm just going low FODMAP, okay? So let's see how it goes. The first thing I have to do is I'm going to have to cook the squashes. So I'm going to cut them in half, remove seeds and strings. There's a microwave version, but I'm not going to do it that way. I usually use the oven version. So I'm going to cut them in half, remove the seeds and strings, and then cook them covered on, bake uncovered for 30 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and preheat the oven to 350 degrees. And then I'll place the halves cut side down in a baking dish, bake uncovered for 30 minutes. So let me go ahead and get ready to do that. Okay, I washed the acorn squashes, and the recipe calls for small acorn squashes. And when I went to the grocery store, they had small ones. Now I need to cut these in half and get ready to make sure I don't cut my finger in the process. So let's go ahead and go like this. Let me, I'm going to go ahead and, let's just do one. You get the gist of what I'm doing, so I'm kind of going around this way. Be very careful that you don't cut your finger. It'd be really easy to do that with this. Yeah, okay. So I'll go ahead and cut both of these in half, and then I'll take the seeds and strings out. Oh, let's go. There we go. Yeah, so, there we go. And they're looking good. They store really good at room temperature in a paper bag. Got to remember that. With these, it's not always advisable to store produce in the refrigerator. Potatoes, like red potatoes, they do better in a brown paper bag at room temperature. And same for garlic and onions. Though you might say, garlic and onions, yeah, if you are using onions. I use green onions because I'm on low FODMAP. So, but I do use garlic because I make my own garlic oil. And I store the garlic in a brown paper bag, and they last forever there. So let me just go ahead and take the seeds and strings out. And I'll go ahead and do it, see what I'm doing here. I'll just go ahead and do it for both of these squashes. Okay, as you can see, I cut them in half and took the seeds and strings out. Placed them cut side down in a baking dish. So that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, this is about the right size because I got 4 of them there. And I'm preheating the oven to 350. Actually, my oven's a little cool, so I'm actually preheating it to 375. It's not quite there yet. Waiting for that red light to go off, and when that happens, I'll go ahead and slip those into the oven. Okay, the red light just went off. Let's go ahead and put this in here, and I'll be cooking it in here for about 30 minutes. Go. And I'll go ahead and set the timer. Okay, now I need to turn the cut side up and bake for 30 minutes more. So let me just go ahead and flip it. It's hot, so I'm going to have to do it this way. Looks like I better use a spatula here. Okay. Yeah, kind of stuck to the bottom here. There we go. Okay, so it's going to cook for 20 minutes more. Then I'll take it out and proceed. So, yeah. Okay, 20 minutes more. Set the alarm for 20 minutes. Okay, for this recipe, I have learned that I think the only way it's going to work is I have to use bread. Before I have to actually cut this up. You have to make breadcrumbs from actual bread. And the reason I didn't do this before was because I'm on a low FODMAP diet, and it seems like I have a problem with bread. So what I did is I bought gluten-free bread, Sam's Choice gluten-free bread, and the recipe calls for a cup of breadcrumbs, so I'm just going to go ahead and break it up myself. For this recipe, bread is the only thing that will work. If you use like flour, so you got to make your own breadcrumb, it needs to be like a cup of breadcrumbs. So let me just go ahead and make my breadcrumbs here. This is Sam's Choice gluten-free bread, made with rice flour and the sorghum flour, and the ingredients in here are good for a low FODMAP diet, and I think it'll also work for this recipe. For some odd reason, nothing else works except this. The meatballs just don't taste right, so you pretty much need to. So if you don't need to follow low FODMAP, you can pretty much use regular bread here. This is white bread, low gluten-free white bread, Sam's Choice brand that I got at Walmart. You actually saw it on my last shopping video. And another thing that I did wrong before is the recipe actually calls for using turkey breast. I find you can use regular ground turkey, just make sure it's low fat. If the turkey has too much fat in it, it doesn't have the right texture for the meatballs. So, but you don't have to. You don't necessarily have to use white turkey breast. You can use any type of ground turkey, just so long as it's low fat. Because for some odd reason, if there is just too much fat in the turkey, it doesn't taste good. The meatballs won't form it. They get, like the last time I made this, the meatballs didn't even stay as meatballs, because once you cook it in the pan, you add wine and broth and stuff in there, and the meatballs they totally lost their shape and turned into liquid. So I'm trying a different strategy this time. So hopefully this will work. You have to use real breadcrumbs here. So let me just go ahead and finish doing this, and then I'm going to go ahead and make the meatballs. So this is the first. I also need to break this egg and then get that ready too. So let me go ahead and finish this. Okay, that's about a cup of breadcrumbs, about 2 slices of bread, and this is the first time I used bread. Yeah, I didn't realize that I try to do all my shopping at Walmart because it's cheaper there, and I didn't realize they actually have gluten-free bread that is low FODMAP. So let's go ahead and get the egg ready. Yeah. So yeah, I think this recipe is going to be a winner today, and so this is like the 4th time I've made this. You say, well, you mustn't be too good of a cook if well, it's because I modified it to be low FODMAP, okay? And this recipe is not designed to be low FODMAP. That's the problem. So I've been trying to figure out a way to make it low FODMAP and delicious. Let's go ahead and get this. Okay, let's go ahead and get that. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and assemble all the ingredients for the meatballs. Okay, that's pretty good there. Here's what the turkey that I used. It's 93% lean. I just got lean simply because lean works better for this recipe. The last time I used something that was like 85% lean and the turkey just turned into water. So it still tasted good, but I didn't call the recipe a success for that reason. If they weren't meatballs anymore. It was like having turkey sauce over this acorn squash, which wasn't what I intended. Okay, we need 1/4 cup onions. I'm substituting green onions in its place. We're going to be making the meatballs. I'm going to put a little bit more in there. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, okay, that's good. All right. I cut them as soon as I get them from the grocery store. That way I don't waste them because they go. And the breadcrumbs. Okay. The egg. Let's go ahead and put the. All right. Egg, anchovy paste. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and add the eggs. Egg, right, just 1 egg. Anchovy paste is 1/4 teaspoon. That's. Go ahead and get that in there. Like I said, this is my 4th try on this recipe. You say, why haven't you given up on it? Because I remember it was delicious when I made it in the 1990s. Back then I didn't have a garlic and onions problem. So I'm determined to keep working with it till I can come up with a low FODMAP version that agrees with me. Okay, let's go ahead and add a little bit of salt and pepper. It says 1/8 teaspoon. Now let me tell you something about salt. If you're using cooking wine, do not add salt, but I'm using regular wine. So I'm going to go ahead and add salt, but not a whole bunch. Just, that's good. Okay, a little bit of pepper. That's good. Now let's go ahead and mix that all together. Ah, my squash is ready. Let me just turn the oven off. That's what I'll do. Yeah, I'll turn the oven off. You know what? I probably need to stop right now and take the squash out and just let it cool, and I'll be right back. It's very hot, so I'm letting it cool on this wooden table, and then after it cools down, I'm going to stuff it and stuff it. Right now I'm making the stuffing, so I took it out of the oven. It actually looks like it's done, so apparently putting the temperature up to almost 400, even though the recipe says 350, like I said, my oven's a little cool. Okay. Let's just go ahead and mix this all together. Yeah, I remember when I made this in the 1990s, I used real bread. And like I said, this is gluten-free white bread, so I think this is going to work a lot better, and it will give the meatballs the right texture. The problem is I've come up with a version that tastes good, but doesn't quite have the right texture. Like last time, the first time I made it, it was like not very good, but yeah. Try to make this low FODMAP is a challenge, okay? All right, it's mixing good. Now let's go ahead and add in the turkey. Let's see. Yeah, just make sure I got all the ingredients. Okay, add the turkey. And this is the turkey that I'm using. And then we're going to make it into meatballs. Now for this, I think I'll go ahead and use my fingers. Yeah, see, this is going to, I can already tell this is going to have a nice texture. And then I got to shape this into 24 meatballs. Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have to use real bread, just like the recipe calls it, make your own breadcrumbs. Even if it's a low FODMAP, you can use sourdough bread, homemade, but it should be sourdough without yeast in it, or just use gluten-free white bread like I bought, and you can get it at Walmart, the Sam's Choice brand. Yeah, this looks like this is going to work, so let me just go ahead and mix this all together. Okay, so let me go ahead and make the 24 meatballs, and I'll show that to you when I'm done. I'll make a couple of the meatballs. I pretty much know about what size they need to be, about this size right here. Just go like this. So, two. So basically, that's a little big. Make sure I'm in the camera. Yeah, so I'll be making about 24 of those, and then when I'm done, I'll go to the next step. There are 24 balls right there. Okay, now we gotta put ingredients for the skillet. The recipe says 3/4 cup of wine. I think I'm gonna go with maybe about a 1/2 cup. And I'm using this wine. For this recipe, I find using real wine works better than cooking wine, because cooking wine has too much salt. So it's better just to use real wine. It actually calls for a dry white wine, which would probably be better, but it's expensive. And I'm on a budget, so I went with this. Here's my chicken stock. Okay, so what I'm going to do for the, it says about 1/2 cup low salt chicken broth. This is my homemade chicken broth. I don't use the canned chicken broth because canned chicken broth has garlic and onions in it, and I'm trying to avoid those. So let's see. We will put in about a 1/2 cup. And yeah, this is definitely low salt. So yeah, this will work. I don't think I need to use quite as much liquid as the recipe calls for. If I do need to, I'll add it later. I know from experience that I don't need to. Okay, so we got that. Peppercorns, cloves, and bay leaf. Peppercorns, you put in 4 black peppercorns. Yeah, they do add a nice flavor to this, so let's go ahead and add them in here. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. 4 black peppercorns. And the cloves add a nice flavor as well. And we will put in 3 whole cloves. So let's just go ahead and put that in there. One, 2. Okay. 3. 3 whole cloves. Yeah. Right there, you can see that. Okay, okay, alright, so we got clove, bay leaf. We need a bay leaf. Okay, let's go ahead and take a bay leaf out of here. That'll work. Okay, now we're going to bring it to a boil. Okay, once it comes to a boil, then I'll add the meatballs in there. Okay, it started boiling, so I lowered the heat. And now we just go ahead and put in the meatballs. All 24 of them. Hopefully they're not going to turn into liquid like one recipe. I think you really do need to use real bread from breadcrumbs for this. little bit higher heat. Okay. Yeah, see, they're already starting to fall apart. I don't know what it is. Let's keep the heat up a little higher. All right, let's see here. Simmer covered for 10 minutes. Okay. Okay, so for 10 minutes. I actually find that it's better to put it down to about medium heat. Because if not, the meatballs are going to turn to liquid. Okay, I'm kind of like preparing, I call it the gravy. I put 1/4 cup of chicken broth in here, and I'm going to add some flour. Now, what I'm using is all-purpose flour, gluten-free. And this recipe probably would be better with regular flour. But, you know, I'm a low-FODMAP, so I'm doing it this way. Let's go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of this. Getting ready to make what I call like the gravy. Yeah, there we go. Because you pour a sauce over the acorn squash, and then we'll just go ahead and get a fork here. Just get that ready ahead of time, because I'm going to be pouring this into the... Once the meatballs are cooked, then I'll be throwing this in there to thicken it. This is my own homemade chicken broth. So, yeah, with low FODMAP cooking, you do everything home from scratch. You don't buy canned chicken broth, you make it yourself. Okay, so this is pretty much ready. Let's see how this looks. Hopefully it hasn't turned into liquid. Ah, good, good, good. They're retaining their shape. So yeah, but you do this for about 10 minutes. You cook it on medium to low heat for about 10 minutes. Yeah, this seems to be working. Last time I did this, they all fell apart. They're still kind of falling apart, but it's better than, yeah, this is pretty good. It's been almost 10 minutes. Like I said, this recipe would be better if I was using regular wheat and stuff, but it's okay. It'll work. I don't want to have an upset stomach, you know, or upset bowels. Cook it a little bit longer, maybe about 5 more minutes. Just wanted to check it out. This is actually an important step. This recipe tends to be too salty, so you got to prepare the 2 teaspoons of capers ahead of time and rinse them out. Rinse them out and get rid of the excess salt. So I'm going to be going ahead and doing that. Yeah, rinse them out. Get rid of that salt. Yeah, this recipe tends to be way too salty, so I like to minimize the salt. So you definitely want to rinse out the capers. Okay. If worse comes to worse and it's not salty enough, people can always add salt. But if it's too salty, and then you're stuck, you know? The recipe's ruined. Okay. Okay, it's time to remove the meatballs, I can tell. Let's go ahead and remove them. Let's see. Yeah, this will work. This can take heat. So let's just go ahead and take them out. We're going to be making the sauce next. This is a slotted spoon. So yeah. Yeah, they pretty much retain their shape, so I'm glad to see that. So yeah, you definitely want to use low-fat turkey. The recipe does call for turkey breast, which would probably work better, but I kind of like the flavor of whole turkey better. But the trick is it needs to be low-fat, or like I said, the meatballs will turn into liquid. They're already kind of doing it right now, so... Okay, once you remove, oops, kind of hot here. Once you remove all the meatballs, then you want to remove the clove, the bay leaf. You want to leave approximately a cup of liquid in the pan. Let's go ahead and take this bay leaf out. I'll just throw that in there for right now. I know. Remove the peppercorns. You can also strain this. It's up to you how you want to do it, you know. A smaller spoon would be helpful for this. Get the garbage can right here. Okay. Let me go ahead and remove that. I think I'm going to add a little bit of, let's see. I'm going to take that out. Yeah, you want approximately a cup of liquid. That looks like, you said, aren't you going to measure it? I'm going to estimate. Let me add a little bit more chicken broth. Let's see here. Get it out of the refrigerator. This is kind of think of this like a gravy, so it doesn't have to be perfect, you know. That's almost a cup there. So just add maybe a little bit more chicken broth. That's good. There, that'll work. Okay, my homemade chicken broth. And okay. Okay, let's go ahead and add the flour. Go ahead and add that in there until it's thickened and bubbly. Then we'll add the capers. Okay. It's pretty getting nice and thick right now. You know. Go ahead and throw in the capers now. That has a nice flavor, but it's very important to rinse them. Because like I said, this recipe tends to be salty. Okay, I think we're just about done here. Let me go ahead and turn the heat off. And this is kind of like the gravy that goes over. You can see that's what it looks like. Okay. Looks like we're ready for the next step. Okay, it's time to add the meatballs back to this. And we kind of like want to spoon the sauce over the meatballs. Blend it nice. Okay, now the recipe says to use fresh parsley over all this, but I only have frozen parsley, but I think that will work. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, the meatballs are kind of falling apart, so I think I'm done. Yeah, we're going to quit right here. Yeah, let's go ahead and get the frozen parsley chopped. That's what it looks like. Yeah, the meatballs do tend to fall apart, so yeah. So I didn't want to swish it around too much. That's a problem I have with this recipe. But yep, better than last time, that's for sure. Okay, the recipe does call for like topping it with fresh parsley, but I only have frozen because I didn't want to waste some parsley that I bought several weeks ago. So what I'm going to do is just kind of chop this up and throw it on top, and it'll still be good. Yeah, that's good. I think I'm going to use it all up. Yeah, parsley's good for you. Okay, that's good. I'm going to go ahead and use up all this. This was frozen parsley. Parsley doesn't last very long, so I find freezing it makes it last longer. Okay, the next step is we're going to put those meatballs inside the squash shells. Okay, this is a heavy pan, so I'm going to have fun with this, eh? Let's see here. big pan. Let me see if I can put it next to this. No, I should have. There. Move this over this way. All right. Here's the pot holder. Okay, what I need to do, yep, just spoon it right in there. Yeah, you can see it. Just want to make sure I was in the camera. This is the pan that I cooked the squash in. Yeah, this is pretty good. This is the way I wanted it. So it kind of like droops over the sides of it and drips off to the side. And yeah, this is good. And then you top it off with parsley and you're done. And then I'll let my men at Church of Gail eat this. You say, why did you not give up on this recipe? Because it's a delicious way to eat turkey. And it's not low FODMAP. It gives me some variety, you know. Yeah, let me get another spoon here. Yeah. This is a German dish. The Germans probably don't worry about low FODMAP, but who knows, there might be some Germans that have that problem. Okay. It's actually quite tasty. It has a nice German tart flavor, you know. Okay, let's just go ahead and cover this up with parsley. Yeah, for frozen parsley, that isn't too bad, eh? Okay. Okay, there we go. It's acorn squash, stuffed acorn squash shells. There we go. It's done. Okay. That's it. Ah, shucks. Tell them. Satan doesn't like it that I cook such delicious food for my men. He's always got to cause it. It's a minor problem. Fell on the floor and little bits of parsley went down there, but no biggie. I can fix that easily. Okay, so I will present this. I'm going to go ahead and try it out and let you all know what it tastes like. So I think it'll be good. And then if it's a success, I will go ahead and post this at my cooking channel and delete the other version that I have, which is no good. All right, let me try this. It's good. I'm going to be posting this at YouTube in place of the other one. So there it is. Yeah, and the squash is cooked just perfectly. Good. And just the right amount of salt, too. So it's good. Yep, this is a winner. I'll have a link to the recipe underneath my video, and I'll make sure to modify the recipe to let you know exactly what worked for me. Like, I'm going to state that when you cook the meatballs, use low to medium heat instead of just low, because that way the meatballs are more likely to stay together. It's good. I think I finally made it right.